Good day to everyone. So I did a short video a while ago, just showing some pictures from Tintagel and Glastonbury. I'm going to go through them a little bit more, but first I'm going to tell you I was on a weekend away that I was invited to. Me and another were both invited, and it was actually really nice as a person to have done that, and they were two characters indeed that I went with over the weekend. One who told me he was an ex-outlaw biker, and the other who is a self-professed medium. So the three of us went away for the weekend. I did spend some time doing things with them, and obviously other times I wandered off by myself, but it's all good. So some of the photographs are a bit hazy, so forgive me. I will go to get to the more clearer pictures. But before I do, I'll just talk about this place. So this is a kitchen building that is actually adjacent to the Glastonbury Abbey. Now, Glastonbury Abbey was destroyed. Unfortunately, I don't actually recall what date because I didn't read anything when I was there. I just wandered around. So nonetheless, this is what was a kitchen building, and it is intact. So it's showcasing, obviously that's not a real fire burning, showcasing just what the kitchen would have been like. And that's me in a tree in Glastonbury Abbey. So you can see that there are ruins in the background, and it is also apparently meant to be the burial place of King Arthur. So the photographs are not great, I'm afraid. Getting my finger in the way. Yeah, that's a bit dark, so you can't actually see the details. So this area is a stoned area outside of Glastonbury Abbey, and it's sunken into the ground. And when I was walking around it and looking at it, it to me appeared that these would have been water channels. Perhaps some old baths, perhaps old baptism waters, I'm not sure. So there is still a little bit of water coming from that space there. Again, that kind of just led me to think it looks like something that would have contained water. It has these channels that look like water would have run through them. That's actually the kitchen building that is outside Glastonbury Abbey that I showed you the photos inside of, the photos of the inside. So that's the Abbey, what's remaining of it. Forgive me that I don't know exactly what happened. I should look it up. So I went for a wander one morning, and I could see Glastonbury Tor from where we were staying. So that's the Tor, and what's on the top of the Tor is the remains of a church, just the church tower. The church was apparently struck by lightning, and just the church tower remains standing there. This is actually a view from Glastonbury Tor by the church tower looking down. I probably should have done that video slower. That was obviously the foot of the lady that was taking my photograph. So yes, that's what I looked like in 2017. So this is from inside the remaining church tower on the top of Glastonbury Tor. So going from Glastonbury down to Cornwall, this is the approach down towards Tintagel Castle. So there is a legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. But I don't personally, to be perfectly honest, I haven't really looked into the history of who actually resided at the castle in Tintagel. So forgive me, I'm not going to be able to go into that. So this is the walk down, the approach towards it, and I just thought it was lovely to look at. So I took a photo. That's not so clear. So this is part of the old castle, and as you can see, it's made out of slate, and it's actually made out of the slate that this is built on. There is a bridge linking this area here to what would have been the main castle. We didn't actually go across that bridge and go into the castle. So here you can see this shaded area where the water is going into a cave. Well, that is the tide in. When the tide goes out, you can go inside that cave. So you can see if remaining walls from the structure that was there previously. Again, I haven't actually looked into it. I should do. What I found interesting was, because we did go and walk and sit down and kind of watch the sunset, was I noticed and had never thought of it before, seeing as I live in the city, that across the coast here the grass is completely different. The coastal grasses, the way they're kind of, the structure of them, it's interesting. So these are caves that are underneath the castle in Tintagel. So the large cave to the left of the picture is Merlin's cave. And so the water floods these caves, and then the tide goes out and you can actually explore these caves. I find the landscape dramatic, and the rock formation and the way that the geology is absolutely fascinating. So what I might actually do in a little while is, because I don't know it off by heart, just being honest, is actually tell you the composition of the rock in that area in Tintagel. So I went off by myself for a little while, and I climbed up and I found a couple of caves, and this one wasn't deep, but it was a perfect little spot to just sit, watch the world go by. This was the view when I looked to my right, and when I looked to that's the view looking to the right, and to my left, that's the view to the left. So I could also see the sea when I looked to my left. So this was another cave that I found a little lower down from the one I was just sitting in. It showed you the picture that I was sitting in. I wanted to go inside, and at first you could just walk in face forward, but then you would have to turn and squeeze through, and not knowing what was the other side and thinking I might get stuck, I decided no, I'm not going to do that. But I took a few photos. So this is actually Merlin's cave when the tide is out. So it's a water channel actually that goes underneath where the castle is, where Tintagel Castle is. So I have a photograph of the other side of that, the other side of Merlin's cave where it comes out. It comes out down here somewhere, so obviously I'm not in the right standing in the right place to take a photo, but that's where it comes out. So yeah, lots of selfies inside Merlin's cave. There are caves opposite, and I did go in. So to the left of the cave, to the left of the photo, and on the left side of the photo, I found quite a few little rock pools, which were quite cool to look at. So, bear with me, I'm going to give you I'm going to Google it because I'm no expert. I can't remember what I just looked up recently once. So please forgive me, So I'm going to get the geological composition of the rock. So I looked this up and I knew it was made of slate, and the slate is quite interesting because you see a lot of slate and it's usually that black charcoal type of colour. But the slate at Tintagel has a kind of, it's like a black green metallic hue, which is quite cool, to be honest. I'm sorry, I know that's not technical terminology right there, but I really like it. So it has that sort of metallic sheen to it. So this is inside another one of the caves. This is not Merlin's cave, it's one adjacent that I went into. And I was quite fascinated by all the different colours and the movement. Obviously it's stationary, but you can see what I can, the movement. I don't mean it's actually moving, forgive me. Like, but how, you can imagine when it was formed, the movement. You know, you can kind of hypothesize about that, how it kind of formed, like a form of growing movement, but at just a very, very different pace than we would. But I just found it fascinating. So you can see here the way the rock is, and to get a gauge of the size, you can see here with the orange bag, one of the people I was with over the weekend, but just gauging the actual size. I mean, for me, I enjoy looking at these things and can kind of imagine that formation, and I won't repeat what I've just said because I've said it twice. This is inside one of the caves opposite Merlin's cave, and you can see Tintagel Castle on the top there. Not the best of photographs. This is not very clear, but this is actually a waterfall inside one of the caves. So this is a small rock pool. Again, please forgive that the photograph is not that clear. And I found out, with thanks to my mum, what this creature is actually called, and it is a beezelet anemone. Yes, the sea absolutely does look like that there. The sea is copper rich, and it has a tropical hue about it. This is not an enhanced photo, that is exactly how it looks. So obviously the tide has gone out, otherwise it would be impossible to be taking the photograph from where I was standing, because the tide completely covers that area when it comes in. So to gauge the size of this, I actually climbed into this cave, and the stone at the bottom that's kind of has a little point at the top to it. I had to climb onto that and then heave myself up, because the next area where it's just the opening, the bottom of the cave there, was actually way above my height, so I had to climb up into it. And when I got inside it, there was a sloped wall, so I had to kind of clamber across odd shaped boulders and things like that to find a spot to just kind of sit down for a moment and just kind of have a look at the geology, the way it's been affected by water and things like that. So that's actually a picture of that walled area, sloped walled area that had been. And I wish I'd take. So the opening of the cave is where the light is coming in. And I was sitting on a large boulder and just kind of took a photo of the slope there. So you can actually see here the slate. And yes, this does have a little bit of a green hue, but however, this is because it's been under seawater. Actually, the photo is the other way around. Now, that photograph, I did bring out the colour, so you can see the difference between that and that. But I did that just to kind of show more blue, but actually I think I definitely prefer the original picture. This one's much better. Yes, I did go with them to Stonehenge. I was absolutely freezing cold. Yeah.